Hey there and welcome. If you've ever glanced at the UGC Net Paper I syllabus and just felt completely lost, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we are going to decode it. We're going to transform that intimidatingly long list of topics into a clear, understandable roadmap. Let's get started. Right? 10 separate units. It's a lot to take in, and it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. You've got teaching aptitude, then logical reasoning, then people and environment. They can honestly feel like completely different subjects. But what if I told you there's a hidden structure that connects them all? To find that structure, we just have to go back to the core purpose. The official syllabus itself tells us the goal, to assess your teaching and research capabilities. This one sentence is the key that unlocks everything. See, it's not just about what you know, it's about building the skills to think, to analyze, and to communicate like a real academic. So here's our game plan. We're going to crack the code by reorganizing those 10 units into 4 simple, logical pillars. We have Pillar 1, the core mission. Pillar 2 is your reasoning toolkit. Then Pillar 3, the communication bridge. And finally, Pillar 4, the modern context. Trust me, this framework is going to completely change how you look at Paper I. Okay, so this is the crucial part. We're shifting our mindset from seeing 10 separate subjects to one single unified blueprint. A blueprint that's designed to build a very specific set of skills. Let's kick things off with that first pillar. Pillar 1 gets right to the heart of it all. This is the core mission of the NET exam. It deals directly with the skills you're absolutely going to need as a future teacher and researcher in higher education. And no surprise here, this pillar is built from Unit 1, Teaching Aptitude, and Unit 2, Research Aptitude. These 2 units are really the bedrock. They define the main roles this exam is actually preparing you for. So, take a look at this. This breaks down a key concept in teaching aptitude. The syllabus really wants you to understand the shift away from old-school teacher-centered methods, which are pretty passive, towards more modern learner-centered methods, which are all about active participation. It's about knowing when to lead versus when to step back and facilitate. And this just perfectly shows the logical flow of research. You see, Unit 2 isn't just a list of random terms. It's a process. It takes you on a journey from the very first step of identifying a problem all the way to the end, drawing conclusions. It's the systematic path every researcher follows. The syllabus also gets into the philosophy behind all this research. Are you trying to find an objective, measurable reality, which is the idea behind positivism, or are you exploring a more subjective, constructed reality, which is what post-positivism is all about? Understanding this basic difference really shapes your whole approach. All right, let's move on to Pillar 2 and see how this all connects. So, if Pillar 1 is your mission, think of Pillar 2 as your toolkit. These are the analytical and reasoning skills you'll be using every single day to get that mission done right. So what's inside this toolkit? 3 really important units: mathematical reasoning, logical reasoning, and data interpretation. And these aren't just abstract tests, They're designed to measure your ability to think critically, build solid arguments, and make sense of all kinds of information. One of the most important skills they test here is telling the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning. So, do you start with a big general rule and work your way down to a specific conclusion? That's deductive. Or do you start with specific little observations and build up to a general theory? Well, that's inductive. Both are absolutely vital in academia. Now, the logical reasoning unit also introduces something really unique and fascinating: Indian logic. At its core is this concept of pramanas, which basically means the means of knowledge. It's a whole framework for figuring out how we know what we know and how we arrive at conclusions that are actually valid. The syllabus lays out 6 of these pramanas. You've got pratyaksha, which is just direct perception, and anumana, which is inference, all the way to shabda, which is knowledge you get from a reliable source. It's this really complete system for validating knowledge. And finally, your toolkit has to include data interpretation. This really boils down to knowing the difference between quantitative data, the numbers, the stats that answer how many, and qualitative data, which are the descriptions and observations that help you explore the why. Okay, so you've got your mission and your toolkit, but how do you actually connect with the world of knowledge out there? That brings us to Pillar 3, the communication bridge. This is all about your ability to both take in information and then share it effectively. This bridge is a two-way street. First, you have your input, which is covered in Unit 3, comprehension. That's how you absorb and understand things.
And second, you have your output, which comes from Unit 4, communication. That's how you clearly express your own ideas.
The comprehension unit is a straight-up test of a fundamental skill. They give you a passage, and the questions are pretty simple. Can you get the main idea? Can you identify the argument? Can you draw the right conclusions? It's a skill you will use constantly in your academic career. Now, the communication unit goes way deeper. It's not just about speaking or writing well. It's about understanding nonverbal cues, navigating group dynamics, figuring out what the barriers to communication are, and even recognizing the huge role that mass media plays in our society. And that brings us to our final pillar. Pillar 4 puts everything else we've talked about into the modern context. Because let's face it, a teacher or a researcher isn't working in a bubble. This pillar covers the environment, the technology, and the systems that shape what academia looks like today.
The 3 units that make up this pillar are Information and Communication Technology, or ICT, People, Development and Environment, and the higher education system itself. Together, they make sure you have that broad awareness that's really expected of any modern academic. For example, the ICT unit isn't just about knowing how to use a computer. It specifically points to digital initiatives in Indian higher education, like Swayam and Swayam Prabha, but also the everyday tools like email and video conferencing that are just essential now.
And it's the same with the environment unit. It expects you to be aware of major international efforts. Understanding this timeline from the Montreal Protocol all the way to the Paris Agreement shows that you get the big picture, the global context of environmental challenges.
So, let's wrap this all up. Instead of 10 confusing, disconnected units, you now have a clear roadmap. It all starts with your core mission. You use your reasoning toolkit to carry out that mission. You build a communication bridge to share your work, and you do all of this within the modern context of today's academic world. See how it all fits? Honestly, seeing the syllabus this way changes everything. It's not an intimidating list anymore. It's a logical structure. So the question isn't, where do I even begin anymore? The question is, which pillar do I want to strengthen today? Now that you have the map, the journey is yours to plan.